boys and girls. We are getting ready to start session 9. And if you look up at the top of the paper, it says comparing themes in fantasy and history. So we are not just looking at what's going on in your book. Now we're also applying that to something in history or even something that could be happening right now. So yesterday I got 2 emails from students, and they were telling me that their fantasy book reminded them of a theme from Number of the Stars. And some of you even remembered the story I Am Rosa Parks. Just in case you don't remember those, I put a video link to Martin's Big Words, and you can watch that too. Okay. But when I got these 2 emails, it kind of made me wonder if perhaps some of these themes are even universal just to books, or maybe they're like big themes to the world too. So I thought we might do an inquiry. I know it's kind of hard to be in a virtual environment and do that, but let's try. So I'm wondering, can the same theme appear in more than one book? So to do that, let's begin with the big Post-it note. Okay. Readers, today I want to teach you that knowledgeable readers assume that same themes are so important, so universal, that they appear in more than one book and across history as well. Sophisticated readers then are alert for these themes, and they bring their knowledge of history to what they're reading to compare how these themes play out. Readers, I know that you've studied history in a lot of ways. You've learned about what happened in Copenhagen, and you've learned what happened in Copenhagen during World War II. You've learned about people like Anne Frank. You've also read historical fiction, and you've studied the Revolutionary War and famous people like George Washington. You've also studied the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement with Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks and Ruby Bridges. So I'm telling you that there's a lot of historical characters that you know a lot about. Okay. Let's look at some of the common universal themes. But before we do that, I just want to remind you that all of these people that I have written in blue, they've all gone on quest, and they've all had to face their own personal dragons. Okay, so let's look at some of these universal themes. I have them on the back of my paper, and I'm going to ask that you pick one, maybe 2 of these to use on your chart today. Okay, and we're going to create a chart on a piece of blank notebook paper. So if you don't have paper, you don't have a favorite writing utensil, please go get that now. Pause it and go grab it. All right, I'm glad you made it back. If you look at the blue Post-it notes that I have here, you can see some universal themes.
Sorry, there was a problem with the app.
You can see that there are some universal themes. 1, kids growing up fast in times of trouble. Even ordinary people or minor characters can affect events. Ordinary people can be capable of great courage. When people band together, they can build power to change. Where there's power, there's also resistance. And then humans are capable of great evil to each other and or goodness. So let me grab a piece of notebook paper here. And we're going to create a chart for today. Okay. On this chart, I'm going to put universal theme at the top. And then I'm going to put the book that I'm reading, The Thief of Always. I just put these on Post-it notes. You don't have to do that. You can just write these things at the top of your paper. and then history or something that's happening now. And then we're going to pick some of these universal themes and plug them in with things that I know I can plug in with the thief of always. So here's an example. I said, in my universal theme, even ordinary people or minor characters can affect events. And here's how that looks in The Thief of Always. Here we've got Miss Griffin. At the very beginning, she didn't say a whole lot to the kids. She kept a lot of things to herself. But as we've recently discovered, she's trying to give them little hints to help them. And then I think about, what does that look like in history? Or what does it look like now? And here I'm thinking back to history, and I'm thinking about Rosa Parks, how she didn't get up from her seat. She stayed. She was able to affect events. Okay. Here's another one I came up with. I said, ordinary people can be capable of great courage. And in The Thief of Always, I'm thinking about how Lulu, when she knew that Harvey and Wendell were trying to escape, she gathered her courage and approached Harvey to give him those figurines back. And then I can also take this of people having courage into history. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking up for civil rights. And I have one more that I feel that I can tie across all three of these areas. When people band together, they can build power to change. And this was especially important to me when I was reading about Harvey and Wendell escaping. Wendell tried very hard to escape the holiday house. And he couldn't remember the day that he was really hot and he was really flustered and he was crying and everything. And he couldn't do it by himself. And he and Harvey developed this little plan, and they had to be super quiet about doing it. But they were able to band together, to work together and change what was happening to them. And here I'm also thinking about during the time of civil rights, people exercising their First Amendment right. They were protesting for civil rights. They were able to band together and come together as one voice. Okay, so boys and girls, this is something you're going to be creating today. A list of all the different universal themes is in the HyperDoc. I would like for you to pick one or two of these. Figure out how you can make it go from universal to the book that you're reading to something going on in history. I'll also have this paper up so you can see some different time periods in history that I know that you've studied based on different books that you've read in 4th grade. Okay? Please make sure that you have finished your status of the class, and make sure that you've picked one or two or even more themes that you want to compare across 3 different ways. And then also read for 20 minutes. You will be using this chart on your Writing Long and Strong on Friday. So please make sure you put it someplace that you can keep up with it. Thanks, boys and girls, and happy reading.